Hey everyone, we're going to do a quick little mixed media layout here with a simple technique. Just using the eyedroppers in the ink that we got, and I've just added a little bit of water and ink onto my mat, and just using my silicone paintbrush to smudge lines all across the page, just messily, not worrying about the thickness of the width apart from them or anything, just, you know, having fun with it, making it go across and just making that focal point on the background. So sometimes it's fun to just experiment and make your own background on a white piece of cardstock rather than using pattern paper or using blank. It just depends on what kind of mood people are in or what your scrapbooking is, how I envision the way it goes. So just using my paintbrush here to add some ink splatters. I'm pretty sure I got this paintbrush from Officeworks or maybe Eccles's, but it just, I guess because the way the bristles are, it works really well at ink splatters. I know other paintbrushes do, but I just happened to pick it up one day and was surprised at how different that it actually works. So while that dries for a little bit, I'm just going to use my pattern paper here to add some layers behind my photo. Just using the photo of my youngest son here after a haircut, so his hair's looking all handsome and spiffy. I'm just going to use mostly these 4 pattern papers here that are more of a small print or more block in colour rather than the others that are a rainbow and big patterns on there. That's just the way I wanted it for this layout so far. So I kept in most of the goodness of making the layers behind the photo just so we could have a look at why and how, because sometimes we rush through this layering process and not really understand how I've made the layers or how other people have made layers when they're doing YouTube videos. So this one's going to be a full matte, so that's just the blue all the way around. Sometimes you might want to do that with just white just to highlight your photo, but I think it draws your eye in and frames the photo as a whole rather than a part when you do the full layer to begin with. So this time I'm just going to do three out of the 4 sides, so it's going to be more of a top matte. It's going to leave the bottom side without any of the light blue, and just have a little play with making the edges, you know, even. Can't say straight because I'm not using a ruler or a paper trimmer, although I can use a paper trimmer and not get straight. So now I'm just going to add some of this yellow, just add pops of colour so that it isn't just a blue monotone layout, and this time I'm going to add it on the bottom layers, so the 3 bottom sides, and I'm just cutting that bottom one a bit bigger than I did the sides because I'm going to rip it. So that's just to add a bit of interest to the bottom. So I tend to, with this kind of photo, I'm thinking that the cluster and the title is going to be down the bottom to the sides, that kind of an area, not up the top. The up top's really not where I think the focal clusters and titles should be. So that's why I start, you know, I'm putting the ripped edges and stuff down the bottom. So just having a fiddle with whether I want to add the green. I put it back onto the layout to see how it's looking, and then I see that we've got this little wood-looking piece of paper cardstock that came in the kit, which was backing and packaging for the alphas, one of the alpha sets. So I'm going to use that as a horizontal layer, and then I decide I'm going to use the green in the same manner so that there's 2 horizontal and 3, you know, near full mats or vertical mats if you want to look at it that way. So just layering it up so that they're not just directly behind each other adds a bit of interest, and like I said, the clusters and the title most likely will be to the sides or down the bottom, so it's nice to have the focal point on the sides already going to start off that goodness. So just playing around with the positioning of these 2 layers. And I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes. I want it to go, but I'm just double checking against the background once I make it sure that it's in the line of the video site. And then I just checking to make sure that it's the way I want, and then I will use my tiny attacher to staple it and then get going with the rest of the layout. So I look at these phrase words, these puffy stickers. They're so fun, but I'm not sure that's where my title's going to come from, so I put them to the side and have a look at what else is going on in the kit. And I thought something black and striking was the way I needed to go, so that's why I pulled out this little pile out of my top of my really useful box, and I got look at this, have a little play with it. So sometimes, and for obviously with this layout, the only idea I had was to do some lines along the page using the ink, and then the rest comes to me as I go. So sometimes layouts come together really quickly because you have an idea of the design the whole way along, and other times you just have one little part of the idea and design, and the rest has to be influenced by the supplies that you've got. And the good thing about using kits is that everything coordinates, so you can pull out all these things and make it work in a way. So obviously not everything will work on every single layout. You can't have 100 pieces of ephemera that will work on one layout, but there is so much in this kit that you could make work in different ways, so that you're not short of trying to make things work at all. So I'm just going through a handful of ephemera at a time and working out what I want to add. So just make a little pile to the right there so that I have some goodies to pull out. And I realized that I didn't want that green to go to the right side. It was throwing the balance off a bit, so I just wanted it to the left, and I ripped it off and ripped the staple that was holding it together. So I just double-sided tape that down again, and then I'm just going to start using some of this foam to mat it at the back. That way I can have a play with the embellishments. So using the foam here, using my wet glue, just going to stick it onto the page, and then I can have a play with sticking and plonking embellishments and the rest of the layout coming together. So lately I have been doing more of the laying things out and seeing how they look before I commit, but at times I do, and I used to be more of a just go with the flow and stick it on how it goes, how I've found it. But I'm finding, especially because this is the first layout of using the October kits, so if it's the first couple of layouts, there is so much in the kits that it is hard to make a decision and hard to force yourself not to hoard things. So I find that is making the process longer than it normally would be for me, but as I get further into the kits and further into the month, they sort of just seem to just be easier. It's just, I don't know. Let me know if other people feel that way and it works that way for them as well. Otherwise, just the lone wolf over here in my own corner. I'm just having a play with adding a little bit more goodness to the layers. I added that banner, which I cut off the words so I could use the words later. I'm just going to add this part of the label, and like I did before, I ripped the edge off so that I could layer it and use that other piece for another layout. I'm going to go with this little label here that says live for an adventure. I'm just going to staple that down and then use my wet glue to make sure it's glued down. And actually I told a little lie before, it's obviously not glued to the layout, but my layers are glued to the foam, so I'm committed in that way. This little exclusive ephemera goes so well, so just going to tuck that in there. So you can see that adding these little bits, getting with your big bulk of the layers behind your photo and then going in with little bits of ephemera and labels and scraps of paper and goodness like that is a fun way to bulk out the layers and make it more of a focal point. I forgot what I was going to say, and then I totally didn't know how to say my word and then totally forgot what I was saying. I'm just going through the clear stickers and the puffy stickers, trying to see what I could make work. I pull out some of the little dots that look like puffy sticker enamel dots, so they're nice to add just here in a bit of a sprinkling, and some hearts. These arrows are so cute that I wanted to use them, and this is, like I said, it's the first layout, so I want to use it all. See, I even pull out, like, that gold scallop does not need to go on there, but I pulled it out, I tried, and I really considered it. When you're looking at this and you're probably sitting at home going, no way would I ever have thought that gold banner washi tape needed to go on this layout. Lucky I didn't put it on there, because that just would have looked really weird. I love this little circle label that says today. Just going to tuck it in. It sort of reminded me like a paper clip, and I wondered whether I could cut out and, clip it over like a paper clip, but then I thought, that's too much work. And I'd probably not make it work at all, so I decided against it. Trying to work out where my ephemera clusters, my embellishment clusters are going. And then I decided I actually need to think about where my title is going, and that will ground the rest of the layout to make sure that I have my clusters in a spot which will balance out the title and the photo. So pull out these chipboard pieces. There's so much on here. I found this little scalloped border has all the colours. It only has a little bit of pink and the red, which is fine. It doesn't clash so much, even though I don't have it. But then adding this title, and I'm going to find a good spot for it in a moment, adding this title means that all those colours are subtly brought into the layout without, overwhelming the whole layout the way it was going. I'm just going to stick that there, and then I'm committing to my photo placement using my Tombow glue, just sticking it down. Just overlapping, the title is sitting underneath that ripped green paper layer, and that is going to be the way it goes. So I have a little fiddle with the other bits and pieces, but I don't end up adding them. I am going to add a fair bit of journaling down the side. It's probably the most journaling I've written on a 12 by 12 for a long time, if not ever. And this is going to be the last of the layout. So stay tuned for close-ups, and I'll catch you later in the month. Bye.